Yvonne Odom and Paula Adams came through the fire of the early desegregation days in the 1960s in Delray Beach. Their paths have not crossed again until now, as they share memories and search for a bridge across racial lines.
We were led to believe that what white people did was the right thing. They always, they didn't write in their books. They didn't cut class. They made all A's, yes.
Who said that?
That's what we were brainwashed because we had to do everything better.
Well, sure.
So when I went over there, that's the lifelong lesson I learned. And I've been spending my life to get African Americans to understand what they have as a gift. And I remember some tales, we could tell some tales. A group of white girls, we were sitting around outside in a speech class, and they were always curious whether or not black folks tanned or peeled. And ironically enough, we had been outside in the sun and my nose started peeling.
Well, good for your nose.
And so I was going around showing the girls, I say, see. So, you know, these are little things. They thought we had tails. And then, of course, when I was able to take a shower in the locker room, you know, we all have the same thing.
Same part, absolutely.
And I was at the University of Florida, living in that dormitory for the first 2 years where I had to learn about people who were different. I remember this young lady trying to show me how to shave my legs.
Yeah, because we didn't have
I had no hair on my legs, and if you had hair on your legs, you were considered beautiful.
Oh yeah,
I mean, you didn't cut that. Hey,
that was a beauty trait. Yes,
Waxing.
Yes.
So that was it. So
and
it was
hair
a pitiful
under your arms.
sight.
Yes,
Me sitting there.
That's right.
No, wait, this is
Right,
real talk.
Girl
Girl
talk. Girl talk.
It was
considered sexy. The
Yeah.
boys
Sexy.
loved it.
The boys
yes,
loved it.
they
See
loved
there?
it.
Well, I'm 63 years old, and that's something I never knew.
Yes. Now we shave our legs, shave our underarms. But back in the day, no, I mean because the boys loved it.
That's it.
Barbara Bell Spence laments the loss of helping hands she grew up with in Belglade, Florida. The town sits on the southern edge of Lake Okeechobee with South Bay and Pahokee in what was once the agricultural heartbeat of the nation. It's now an area hoping to redefine itself. Her memories and her work form a link between the past and the future she shares with the younger generation. South Florida is certainly a gold mine for an oral historian like me. Often the answers in interviews have a similar pattern. People talk about the idyllic childhood they remember, about that interesting family, but no two stories about race relations experiences are the same. Barbara Bell Spence reminisces with me about her version of Belglade and some of the changes she has seen. She also told her story for a book about her experiences. And it's interesting to see how the versions align and how they may sometimes disagree. As far as my family was concerned, everyone was a neighbor. Everyone knew everyone. We knew everyone around us.
What I remember most, and it's so funny that some of my co-workers and I were talking about growing up here in the Glades and what it was like in our communities, the sense of community, the fact that everyone knew everyone, and the fact that even though we had very little, we thought we were rich compared to the way children are today, and the responsibilities we had, and family, the sense of family more so than it is today. The majority of the residents here were migrant workers, but we took care of each other. There was no sense of, there was no welfare during that time. You didn't have to worry about locking your doors because we didn't have break-ins and things like there is now. And if one of the adults saw you doing something you weren't supposed to be doing, you were immediately chastised. And then they would take you home, and then you got a spanking again.
Oh, we didn't know 911 when we were growing up.
We might have known it, but we wasn't going to call it.
Then you're in even more trouble.
And one of the things we've tried to do is work with the youth. I truly believe that the youth are our future. And if you can get the young people to work together, that will ensure that we'll have peace and harmony in the years to come. Some of the elderly people have been very set in their ways, and it's very difficult for them to change, very difficult. They tend to be polite in some sense, but underneath you know that they don't really want to associate or be bothered with you or whatever.
My father was very active in the community, and my mother was very community-oriented too, but she worked mostly through the church. She was a Sunday school teacher, an old mission society woman, and she visited people.
So there's a lot of history here with my family, and I feel that I'm somewhat obligated to continue that process.
And what about how things have changed over time?
Once you reach a certain point in your life, and you are somewhat Christian-minded, then you start looking at people in a total different light. You just try to overlook some of their shortcomings and try to go for the positive.
Marta Cruz Jansen was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and she is the most recent voice in the Multicultural Race and Change Oral History Archive. She's often called a Black Hispanic, but she prefers the term Latinegra. In our conversation, one-on-one, she ponders further the challenges of straddling racial and ethnic lines within a Latin culture that denies racial differences.
It is said in Puerto Rico, across Latin America, that everybody has a black grandma in the closet. ¿Y tu abuela a dónde está? But yet, in the census 2000, in an island that has over 85% of the people have some grandma in the closet, more than 85% of Puerto Ricans chose white. So again, there is a sense
You
of...
mean in terms of
questionnaire in the U.S. Census for the year 2000. Even in countries that have black ancestry, they prefer to be mestizos, which means to be mixed with Indians, but they will not talk about the black ancestry. Mexico, they are a nation of mestizos. That's what they say. That's what they say to the world. Mestizo means Indian and white.
Right.
So there is, again, a denial of the black root. When I came to the mainland, I had a teacher trying to give me some good advice. And she said to me, basically, she says, you know, Marta, you might as well recognize that you are black, because that's how you're going to be treated. And again, these are Latinos. We have young Latinos in the United States today who are not accepted by the mainstream.
Yes.
Because they're black. And they're not at home with the Latino community because we don't want them.
Yeah.
And these are young teenagers who don't fit anywhere. I just gave a presentation where I said they are caught between a rock and a hard place. I have interviewed individuals from the same family, siblings, where one sibling is white, okay, and they live in a white community, many times married to a white spouse, leading a white life. The other sibling is darker, a parent, and they lead a different life altogether in a darker community. And sometimes they call themselves different names.
But I guess it's all in the way you look at things, you know, how perspectives can change from one country to another or from one society to another.